It started with a silence so heavy that even veteran palace aides refused to speak above a whisper. Behind the closed doors of Clarence House, King Charles delivered what insiders now describe as his most heartbreaking private message yet. And when Princess Catherine emerged minutes later, visibly trembling and fighting tears, the atmosphere inside the monarchy changed instantly. What was first dismissed as exhaustion soon spiraled into something far more devastating: the realization that the king's final wishes may already be shaping the future of the crown. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. According to palace insiders, the meeting had not been scheduled on the official royal calendar, and even senior staff members were allegedly informed only moments before William and Catherine arrived at Clarence House under unusual security arrangements. Reports suggest aides were quietly removed from nearby corridors, while private protection officers blocked access to an entire section of the residence, fueling immediate speculation that the king's condition may have taken a troubling turn behind closed doors. But what truly unsettled longtime royal observers was not the secrecy itself, it was the emotional aftermath. Witnesses claim Catherine, normally composed under even the harshest public scrutiny, appeared visibly shaken as she exited the meeting, avoiding eye contact with staff while gripping William's hand with unusual urgency. One palace source reportedly described the atmosphere as emotionally unbearable, while others whispered that Charles spoke with a level of honesty rarely seen within the monarchy's tightly controlled inner circle. For months, rumors surrounding the king's health had circulated quietly through royal administrative circles, but insiders now suggest this conversation carried a different weight entirely, because it allegedly centered not only on Charles's personal fears, but on the survival of the institution itself once he is gone. Various interpretations of the meeting claim the king spoke extensively about Prince George and Princess Charlotte, emphasizing the immense pressure awaiting the next generation of royals in an increasingly fractured monarchy. That detail alone reportedly devastated Catherine, who has spent years shielding her children from the emotional chaos that has repeatedly consumed the House of Windsor. Sources close to palace staff suggest Charles reflected deeply on duty, sacrifice, and the burden carried by those born into the crown, with one insider claiming the king grew especially emotional while discussing the future William and Catherine may soon inherit far earlier than expected. And while the palace has publicly maintained complete silence, insiders whisper that William remained inside Clarence House long after Catherine departed, leading to growing speculation that father and son held a second private conversation once the princess left the room. That detail has only intensified fears that the monarchy may quietly be preparing for changes far more serious than the public currently understands. Royal commentators have already begun analyzing subtle shifts in recent weeks. William taking on more institutional responsibilities, Catherine appearing increasingly protective of George, Charlotte, and Louis, and senior palace aides reportedly operating with what one former staffer described as quiet urgency. Yet none of those whispers prepared royal watchers for the emotional shock now rippling through palace walls after Catherine's heartbreaking reaction became impossible to hide. Because according to those familiar with the monarchy's inner workings, what shattered her in that room was not merely hearing a weary king reflect on mortality. It was hearing him speak about the future battles still waiting inside the House of Windsor, the divisions that continue to haunt the institution, and the painful reality that the next chapter of royal history may already be approaching faster than anyone inside the palace is prepared to admit. But what truly shattered Catherine wasn't simply the king's emotional condition. It was the chilling warning he reportedly delivered about the battles still waiting inside the House of Windsor. Inspired by the uploaded Royal Snap-style storytelling framework and user provided scripting instructions. For days, royal staff attempted to dismiss the rumors as routine family discussions, but according to multiple palace insiders, this meeting was unlike anything seen since the Queen's final months, and the emotional fallout surrounding Catherine became impossible to ignore. Reports now suggest King Charles personally requested Catherine's presence rather than convening a broader gathering of senior royals, a decision that immediately triggered concern among those familiar with the monarchy's carefully managed internal structure. According to sources close to palace operations, William arrived at Clarence House first, under unusually discreet circumstances, entering through a secured side entrance, while aides were quietly instructed to clear adjacent hallways. Nearly 20 minutes later, Catherine reportedly followed alone, her arrival deliberately staggered in a move royal commentators now believe was designed to avoid immediate public attention. Yet despite the palace's efforts to maintain normality, whispers surrounding the meeting spread rapidly behind the scenes, especially after security activity around Clarence House intensified throughout the evening. Witnesses allegedly noticed additional protection officers stationed near private corridors, while longtime household staff described an atmosphere so tense that even veteran aides avoided speaking openly once the doors closed behind the future king and queen. But what unfolded inside that private room appears to have carried a weight far beyond ordinary royal planning. Various interpretations of the conversation suggest Charles spoke candidly about continuity, legacy, and the fragile responsibility of protecting the institution during one of the monarchy's most uncertain periods in decades. According to insiders, the king reportedly abandoned formal protocol and spoke not as a distant sovereign, but as a weary father deeply aware of the burden soon waiting for William and Catherine. That shift alone is said to have changed the emotional tone of the entire meeting. Sources whisper that Catherine became visibly emotional when Charles allegedly referenced her future role within the monarchy, acknowledging the immense pressure she may soon face as the woman expected to stabilize an institution already strained by years of public conflict, family division, and relentless scrutiny. Royal commentators now claim the king's words carried less the tone of a strategic discussion and more the heartbreaking weight of a farewell. That perception only intensified when Charles reportedly turned the conversation toward Prince George and Princess Charlotte, with insiders suggesting the room fell into an uneasy silence the moment their names were mentioned. According to palace whispers, Charles spoke emotionally about safeguarding the next generation from the turmoil that has repeatedly consumed the House of Windsor, warning that the monarchy's future would depend not only on public duty, but on protecting the emotional well-being of the children destined to inherit its enormous expectations. For Catherine, who has long fought to preserve a sense of normalcy for her children despite constant royal pressure, the emotional impact reportedly became overwhelming. Staff members later claimed they noticed her wiping tears as she quietly exited through a private doorway rarely used during official royal meetings. And while the palace has publicly refused to acknowledge the gathering, insiders insist the emotional gravity surrounding Catherine afterward became impossible to conceal. Even more telling, William allegedly remained behind with Charles long after Catherine departed, fueling mounting speculation that the Prince of Wales may have received deeply personal guidance from his father regarding the monarchy's uncertain future. In the days since, royal observers have scrutinized every public appearance, every subtle gesture, every carefully controlled statement from Kensington Palace, searching for clues about what was truly discussed behind those closed doors. But while the public focused on Catherine's heartbreaking reaction, insiders say the real shock came from the name Charles mentioned next, a name tied to years of royal tension and unresolved wounds. According to whispers now circulating through royal administrative circles, the room reportedly fell silent the moment King Charles addressed the fractures still threatening the monarchy from within, and what he said next may have stunned even William himself. Sources familiar with the private gathering claim the king no longer spoke in vague royal language or carefully measured diplomatic phrases. Instead, insiders suggest Charles addressed the wounds inside the House of Windsor with an honesty so raw that even seasoned palace staff later described the conversation as emotionally devastating. Reports indicate the king spoke openly about the damage caused by years of public royal conflict, acknowledging how deeply the institution had been shaken by betrayal, interviews, memoirs, public accusations, and the growing emotional distance between family members once viewed as inseparable. According to multiple palace commentators, the discussion carried the heavy atmosphere of unfinished grief rather than political strategy, as Charles allegedly reflected on how rapidly personal pain had transformed into a global spectacle capable of weakening the monarchy itself. And while no official confirmation has emerged, insiders whisper that Prince Harry and Meghan's ongoing separation from royal life became one of the central themes of the conversation. Sources claim Charles expressed quiet heartbreak over the widening divide, particularly the emotional impact it may eventually have on Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis as they grow older and begin understanding the painful fractures that have haunted their family for years. That detail reportedly hit Catherine especially hard. Those close to palace operations suggest the Princess of Wales became visibly emotional the moment Charles shifted his attention toward the children, warning that the next generation must never inherit bitterness disguised as legacy. According to insiders, the king allegedly spoke with unusual vulnerability about the emotional cost of royal duty, explaining that public service inside the monarchy often demands sacrifices few people outside palace walls could ever fully understand. William, however, reportedly remained composed throughout much of the discussion, though witnesses claim his silence carried unmistakable tension. Royal observers familiar with the prince's personality suggest he understood the deeper meaning behind his father's words immediately. This was no longer simply about repairing family relationships. It was about protecting the crown from future instability, before personal conflict consumed another generation of heirs. Sources whisper that Charles expressed growing fears about future divisions eventually harming George, Charlotte, and Louis emotionally, especially if the monarchy continues carrying unresolved resentment into the years ahead. Palace commentators later described the conversation as deeply personal and painfully honest, with one insider claiming the king appeared emotionally exhausted by the weight of trying to preserve unity inside an institution built on centuries of discipline, silence, and sacrifice. Yet perhaps the most heartbreaking moment reportedly came when Charles turned directly toward Catherine and spoke about duty itself. According to whispers from those familiar with the meeting, the princess allegedly struggled to hold back tears as the king reflected on the burden she may soon carry as future queen. Sources claim Charles reminded both William and Catherine that survival inside the monarchy has never depended on comfort, popularity, or personal happiness. Instead, he reportedly warned that the crown must survive personalities, ambitions, and even family heartbreak if the institution is to endure beyond the chaos of the present era. That statement alone has since sent shockwaves through royal circles, because insiders believe it revealed just how seriously Charles views the threats still surrounding the monarchy from within. And while the palace continues projecting calm to the public, whispers behind palace walls suggest the emotional intensity of that private meeting left a lasting mark on both William and Catherine, long after the doors of Clarence House quietly closed for the night. But the emotional weight of the meeting only deepened when Charles reportedly revealed one final request, one that insiders believe could permanently reshape royal power behind palace walls. For years, Catherine was viewed as the calm center of a monarchy in constant turbulence. But insiders now believe the private words spoken by King Charles forced her to confront a reality she had quietly feared for months. The future of the crown may soon rest far more heavily on her shoulders than anyone imagined. According to sources familiar with the emotional meeting at Clarence House, the king reportedly shifted away from institutional concerns for a brief moment and addressed Catherine directly, speaking with a level of personal admiration that left the princess visibly shaken. Reports suggest Charles privately praised her loyalty, resilience, and unwavering discipline during some of the monarchy's darkest public storms, acknowledging how her quiet steadiness had helped stabilize the royal family during periods marked by scandal, division, and relentless scrutiny. For years, Catherine has carried herself with composure that palace insiders often describe as almost unbreakable, but those close to the institution now claim something changed during that conversation. Sources whisper the king allegedly spoke openly about how essential Catherine has become to the monarchy's survival, describing her not simply as William's wife or the future queen, but as one of the few remaining figures capable of preserving trust in the institution itself. That emotional acknowledgement reportedly overwhelmed her far more than anyone expected. Royal commentators now believe Catherine had spent months privately sensing that greater responsibility was approaching, especially amid ongoing concerns surrounding Charles's health, yet hearing those fears spoken aloud by the king himself transformed quiet anxiety into something painfully real. According to insiders, Charles discussed the extraordinary pressures awaiting her as future queen, warning that public duty inside the monarchy rarely becomes easier with time. Instead, it grows heavier with every crisis, every betrayal, every sacrifice demanded in silence. Sources claim Catherine became deeply emotional as Charles reflected on the loneliness often carried by those at the center of the crown. Particularly women expected to hold the monarchy together while enduring endless public expectation behind closed doors. For a brief moment, palace insiders suggest the conversation no longer felt political or ceremonial. It became intensely human. A weary king speaking honestly to the woman many now view as the monarchy's emotional anchor. And while William reportedly remained outwardly composed throughout the meeting, sources say he immediately noticed the emotional impact his father's words had on Catherine. Witnesses claim the Prince of Wales stayed close beside her after the discussion ended, quietly reassuring her, as they prepared to leave Clarence House under the weight of what had just been said. According to staff members present that evening, Catherine appeared unusually withdrawn afterward, her normally calm public demeanor replaced by visible exhaustion and emotional strain. That somber mood reportedly lingered well into the following morning, with palace aides quietly observing a noticeable shift in atmosphere across royal operations. Even veteran household staff allegedly described the environment as tense, reflective, and emotionally unsettled. Royal commentators have since connected the moment to broader succession anxieties growing inside the firm, particularly fears that William and Catherine may soon be forced into accelerated responsibilities far earlier than originally expected. Reports now suggest senior advisors have already begun privately discussing long-term institutional adjustments designed to prepare the Prince and Princess of Wales for a future that suddenly feels alarmingly close. And while the palace continues projecting stability to the public, insiders whisper that Charles's emotional conversation with Catherine may have revealed far more than simple concern about the monarchy's image. It may have exposed how urgently the king now believes the institution must prepare for the next era before internal fractures, public pressure, and unresolved family wounds become impossible to contain. But even as Catherine struggled emotionally with the king's words, another powerful figure inside the monarchy was already moving behind the scenes to secure the institution Charles feared could fracture. If Catherine carried the emotional weight of the king's message, insiders say William carried something equally dangerous: the realization that the monarchy may soon enter its most fragile transition in decades. And according to whispers from within palace circles, his response began almost immediately. Reports suggest the Prince of Wales wasted little time retreating into emotion or uncertainty after the deeply personal gathering at Clarence House. Instead, sources familiar with royal operations claim William quietly shifted into a state of intense focus, holding multiple private meetings with senior advisors, communications staff, and trusted institutional figures within hours of leaving his father's residence. While the public remained unaware of the emotional storm unfolding behind palace walls, insiders allege a new level of coordination quietly began taking shape between Kensington Palace and some of the monarchy's most influential administrative figures. According to those close to royal planning operations, conversations that had once moved cautiously suddenly accelerated with unmistakable urgency. Sources whisper William became increasingly fixated on two words in particular: stability and discipline. Those who know the future king reportedly describe him as deeply affected not only by Charles's emotional warnings, but by Catherine's visible heartbreak after the meeting concluded. Palace insiders claim witnessing Catherine's struggle emotionally may have hardened William's determination to shield both his family and the institution from further instability before circumstances spiral beyond control. And while he remained composed publicly, reports suggest those closest to him noticed a dramatic shift in his private demeanor almost immediately afterward. Royal commentators now believe William quietly recognized that the monarchy may soon face a dangerous crossroads, one where every decision, every public appearance, and every internal conflict could carry enormous consequences for the crown's future. According to insiders, speculation surrounding future royal restructuring intensified sharply after the Clarence House meeting, with senior aides allegedly discussing contingency strategies at a pace rarely seen outside periods of national transition. Some sources even claim long-standing conversations about expanding William and Catherine's responsibilities were quietly revisited behind closed doors, particularly as concerns surrounding Charles's health continue casting uncertainty over the monarchy's immediate future. At the same time, reports suggest senior palace staff received instructions to tighten media protocols and limit unnecessary exposure surrounding sensitive royal matters. Observers familiar with palace operations describe a growing determination to prevent further public instability during what many insiders allegedly view as an increasingly delicate chapter for the institution. Royal experts have since linked these subtle but noticeable changes to fears that even minor public controversies could create larger waves of uncertainty, while the king remains emotionally and physically vulnerable. Yet beneath the strategic planning and institutional caution, insiders insist the emotional impact of that private conversation continued lingering heavily over William and Catherine themselves. Sources close to the family claim the Prince and Princess of Wales became markedly more protective of Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis in the days following the meeting, reportedly spending more private time together away from public scrutiny while limiting unnecessary exposure around the children. According to palace whispers, William grew especially determined to shield his family from the emotional turbulence that has repeatedly consumed the House of Windsor over the years. And while the future king allegedly focused on preserving order inside the institution, those closest to Catherine suggest her mind remained trapped elsewhere, still replaying the deeply personal words Charles had spoken behind those closed doors. Because according to insiders familiar with the conversation, there was one particular sentence the king repeated near the end of the meeting that reportedly left Catherine emotionally shattered long after the night had ended. A sentence some royal commentators now believe revealed Charles's deepest fear about the future of the monarchy itself. But while William focused on protecting the institution, Catherine reportedly remained haunted by one painful sentence insiders claim Charles repeated before the meeting finally ended. Long after the doors of Clarence House closed and the palace lights dimmed, insiders say one haunting thought continued echoing through Catherine's mind. A final reflection from King Charles that transformed private grief into something far more profound. According to whispers circulating through royal circles, the emotional weight of that evening did not end when William and Catherine quietly departed the king's residence. In many ways, insiders believe it only began there. Sources familiar with the private discussion claim Charles spoke with unusual vulnerability about legacy, unfinished duty, and the painful reality that time may no longer be something the monarchy can take for granted. For years, the institution has survived through silence, discipline, and carefully maintained appearances. But insiders now suggest the king momentarily allowed those walls to fall away as he reflected on the uncertain future waiting ahead. Reports indicate Charles expressed deep fears about leaving the monarchy vulnerable during one of its most fragile modern chapters, particularly as public trust, family unity, and institutional stability continue facing relentless pressure from both inside and outside palace walls. Those close to the situation claim the king repeatedly returned to one central idea throughout the conversation: service above self. According to palace whispers, that phrase appeared to affect Catherine more deeply than anything else spoken that night. Sources allege Charles reflected emotionally on the sacrifices demanded by royal life, warning that the crown often requires its guardians to surrender pieces of themselves in order to preserve something larger than personal happiness. Royal insiders now believe Catherine understood immediately what the king was truly saying beneath those carefully chosen words. This was not simply advice for a future queen. It was a warning about the emotional cost of becoming the woman expected to carry the monarchy through its next era of uncertainty. Witnesses familiar with the aftermath of the meeting claim Catherine appeared visibly shaken for hours afterward, while William reportedly remained composed despite the enormous emotional gravity surrounding the conversation. According to those close to the Prince of Wales, William's calm exterior masked a growing awareness that the monarchy may already be entering a transition far sooner than anyone publicly admits. Yet while he focused on absorbing the institutional implications of his father's words, insiders claim Catherine struggled more deeply with the emotional burden hidden inside them. Palace commentators have since described the atmosphere inside Clarence House that evening as painfully emotional, but historically significant, with some even comparing the secrecy surrounding the conversation to the monarchy's most sensitive family moments of previous generations. Reports suggest staff members present during the gathering were quietly instructed never to discuss what occurred behind those closed doors, further intensifying speculation that the conversation may have carried implications far beyond an ordinary family discussion. The silence that followed reportedly became just as unsettling as the meeting itself. No official statements, no clarifications, only whispers spreading cautiously through palace corridors while royal observers searched for clues in every public appearance made afterward by William and Catherine. And increasingly, commentators now believe the Princess of Wales emerged from that night with a profoundly different understanding of the future awaiting her. For years, Catherine has been viewed as the monarchy's calm and steady presence, admired for her discipline, grace, and restraint during periods of extraordinary turbulence. But insiders now suggest the emotional conversation with Charles forced her to fully confront the immense sacrifices still ahead. The loneliness, scrutiny, and emotional endurance required to protect an institution that often demands silence even during moments of personal heartbreak. According to royal sources, that realization may have changed something inside her forever. Because while the public continues seeing carefully measured smiles and composed appearances, whispers behind palace walls suggest Catherine now carries the emotional weight of knowing the monarchy's future may soon depend far more heavily on William and herself than ever before. But as the emotional dust settled behind palace walls, the monarchy itself appeared to enter a new and uncertain chapter, one shaped by duty, fear, and the fading voice of a king preparing for what may come next. In the days following the emotional meeting, subtle changes reportedly began unfolding across royal operations, and to seasoned palace observers, the shift felt impossible to ignore. Something inside the monarchy had changed. Quietly. Permanently. According to insiders familiar with palace procedures, the atmosphere surrounding senior royal activity began tightening almost immediately after William and Catherine's private gathering with King Charles at Clarence House. What initially appeared to be routine institutional adjustments soon evolved into a pattern of unusual decisions that longtime royal watchers claim carried unmistakable signs of preparation. Sources whisper increased security measures were quietly introduced across several royal residences, while communication protocols allegedly became far more restrictive than usual. Palace staff reportedly received renewed reminders regarding confidentiality surrounding internal matters, with certain aides instructed to avoid discussing senior royal schedules even within administrative circles traditionally trusted with sensitive information. To the public, the monarchy continued projecting stability and continuity. But behind palace walls, insiders claim the mood had shifted dramatically. Reports suggest senior royal schedules were adjusted with surprising urgency in the days that followed, fueling speculation that conversations surrounding succession planning may have accelerated after the king's deeply emotional discussion with William and Catherine. Royal commentators now believe the meeting may have acted as a turning point inside the institution, a moment when private concerns suddenly transformed into active preparation. According to sources close to palace operations, William reportedly began dedicating significantly more time to high-level institutional matters, holding private consultations with advisors while quietly increasing his involvement in decisions traditionally overseen at the highest levels of the monarchy. Those familiar with royal dynamics suggest the Prince of Wales appeared intensely focused, disciplined, and determined to project steadiness, despite growing anxiety behind the scenes. Yet while William reportedly concentrated on preserving order inside the institution, observers claim Catherine's public demeanor subtly changed in ways impossible for experienced royal analysts to ignore. During several public engagements following the Clarence House meeting, commentators described the Princess of Wales as more reserved, more reflective, and emotionally distant beneath her composed exterior. Nothing overt, nothing dramatic, but enough for palace insiders to quietly question whether the emotional burden of Charles's private words was continuing to weigh heavily on her. According to whispers circulating through royal circles, those closest to Catherine noticed a growing seriousness in her demeanor, particularly whenever discussions surrounding the monarchy's future surfaced during official conversations. And while the palace made no public acknowledgement of any internal concerns, insiders insist the atmosphere behind closed doors increasingly felt defined by one word: preparation. Reports claim key aides and senior advisors quietly began reorganizing future ceremonial responsibilities, reassessing long-term scheduling structures, and reviewing contingency arrangements tied to future royal obligations. Some commentators now suggest the monarchy may already be preparing emotionally and institutionally for a transition no one publicly wishes to discuss openly. The secrecy surrounding these alleged adjustments has only intensified public fascination. Every appearance by William, Catherine, and King Charles now faces microscopic analysis, with royal observers dissecting body language, emotional tone, and even subtle changes in routine for clues about what may truly be unfolding inside the House of Windsor. Public interest has become especially intense regarding Catherine herself, with many noting moments where the princess appeared visibly more solemn than usual, despite maintaining the calm professionalism that has long defined her royal image. To some, those expressions reflect simple exhaustion after months of pressure surrounding the monarchy. But to others inside palace circles, they signal something far more profound: a woman privately carrying the emotional reality of conversations the public has not yet heard in full. Because according to insiders, Catherine may now understand the seriousness of the king's fears more clearly than almost anyone else within the institution. And while the palace continues presenting an image of control, discipline, and continuity to the outside world, whispers behind the scenes suggest a deeper truth is quietly taking shape. One filled with uncertainty, emotional strain, and the growing realization that the monarchy may already be entering the opening moments of a painful new era. But while the palace tried to maintain calm in public, insiders say Catherine privately understood something heartbreaking the rest of the world was only beginning to suspect. What began as a whispered late-night conversation inside Clarence House has now become one of the most emotionally charged royal mysteries in recent memory. Because according to those closest to the institution, Catherine didn't simply hear a king speaking about the future. She heard a father, a monarch, and a weary guardian, confronting the possibility that his time to protect the crown may be running out. In the days following that emotional gathering, palace insiders claimed the emotional burden carried by the Princess of Wales became impossible to fully conceal behind carefully measured smiles and polished public appearances. Reports suggest Catherine left the meeting carrying far more than concern for the king's condition. She allegedly left carrying the weight of his trust, his fears, and the painful realization that the future stability of the monarchy may soon depend heavily on the strength, discipline, and sacrifice expected from William and herself. According to those familiar with the atmosphere inside royal circles, the conversation at Clarence House was not viewed as an ordinary family discussion. It was seen as a defining moment quietly reshaping the monarchy's future behind closed doors. Royal commentators now increasingly describe William and Catherine as the institution's central stabilizing force during one of the most uncertain chapters the House of Windsor has faced in decades. While public attention continues focusing on Charles's health struggles and the emotional strain surrounding the senior royals, insiders whisper that deeper fears continue haunting palace corridors. Fears about future divisions, public instability, and whether the monarchy can preserve unity in the face of mounting emotional and institutional pressure. According to sources close to palace operations, Charles's final wishes reportedly centered not on titles, ceremony, or personal legacy, but on continuity, unity, protection of the crown above personal conflict. That detail, insiders claim, deeply affected Catherine because it reflected the same values she has quietly embodied for years, while enduring extraordinary scrutiny and relentless pressure from every direction. Yet the emotional cost of honoring that vision may be far greater than the public fully understands. Reports suggest the Princess of Wales has become increasingly determined to protect the future Charles spoke about so emotionally that evening, even as the burden surrounding her own role continues growing heavier with every passing month. Palace observers now believe Catherine understands more clearly than ever before that the monarchy's next era will not simply demand elegance and public composure. It will demand endurance, sacrifice, silence during moments of profound personal uncertainty. And at the center of those fears stands the next generation itself. According to insiders, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis are now viewed within royal circles as the emotional heart of the monarchy's future, with growing efforts reportedly focused on shielding them from the turmoil that has repeatedly consumed previous generations of the royal family. Sources claim Charles spoke passionately about protecting the children from division, resentment, and emotional isolation, warning that the survival of the institution depends not only on preserving tradition, but on preserving the humanity of those destined to inherit it. That emotional reflection reportedly stayed with Catherine long after the meeting ended. Royal experts now believe the private conversation at Clarence House may influence royal strategy for years to come, accelerating preparations for a future transition that suddenly feels far closer than many inside the palace once believed. And while officials continue presenting calm stability to the world outside the gates, insiders suggest something irreversible may already be unfolding behind palace walls. a quiet transformation shaped by duty, fear, preparation, and the emotional weight of a king confronting his own limitations. The monarchy now appears to be entering a new chapter defined not by celebration, but by uncertainty and sacrifice, where every public appearance, every carefully chosen word, and every silent gesture carries deeper meaning than ever before. And as silence once again settles over palace corridors, one haunting question still lingers behind the gilded walls of the monarchy. Were these merely the reflections of a weary king, or the final words of a sovereign preparing to say goodbye? Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.